rolling.
I don't really know for sure how to do things. Oh, yep, I did it the wrong way again.
So who's going to do which section?
Well, I should get my notes pulled up, I suppose. Yeah, whatever. I don't know.
I can do the first part. You can do the synopsis, or vice versa.
Sure. Yeah, that's good.
Which one?
Well, we're the Garner Brothers. We're doing our first movie review, and it is for the movie everyone's been talking about since 2016. The Shallows.
Just in time. We know that the YouTube world was dying for a review of a couple of amateurs of this 2016 film.
For sure. Yeah, after watching it, kind of realized that this is probably the worst video to start a movie review channel on. But I guess you got to start somewhere. So hopefully this isn't a reflection of what is to come with this YouTube channel. Okay, so it is the beginning of October. We were trying to do scary movies. That's why we picked this one. Well, we were going to do Psycho, which would have been probably way better. But alas, we for some reason decided not to do that, because this was one that we both hadn't seen.
And it's got a 79% on the Tomatometer, so I was thinking this was going to be, worth watching. It's going to be fun. There was a lot of praise for it when it came out. So the film is directed by a guy whose name we do not know how to say. Jaume Collet Serra. Could be possibly one mispronunciation of that name. He's really never directed a good film. If you look at that's really harsh. If he ever watches this movie, I'm sorry. His Tomatometer scores are a little low.
He is definitely gonna watch this video.
He's directed half of Liam Neeson's February action movies. Every year he has like a February action
The
movie.
Commuter, Run All Night, Nonstop, Unknown. Yeah. I believe those are all Liam Neeson.
The only other movie he's done that has a fresh rating is Nonstop, with a 61% on the Tomatometer, which is barely fresh. And then there's this film, which has a 79%.
Yeah, I should also say that if we were to make a movie, it would probably be way worse than this.
Oh, yeah. For sure. It's not a bad movie. It's very, competently made.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem.
And there were some good things about it as well. Which we'll talk about.
I just think 79% is a little generous.
I agree.
The film stars Blake Lively and no one else.
And Steven Seagal.
Oh, yeah. There is a seagull named Steven.
The best part of the whole movie is when she names a seagull on the rock with her, Steven Seagal.
For sure.
If that's the best part of the movie, then anyway. Yeah, so just so everyone knows, because everyone is just dying to know how this movie ends, there will be spoilers.
If you haven't seen it yet.
We realize that there's really no need to say that, but I think that by law you have to if you're going to talk about movies, or else, death threats or something crazy like that. Because that's the world we live in. YouTube comments would have death threats if I didn't put a spoiler warning for The Shallows.
We're still going to get death threats in the comments. It's YouTube.
No, we're not going to have any comments, but if they do put any comments, it will be death threats.
Yeah.
Okay. So, spoiler, let's see here. This is a movie about Blake Lively, who, her father, this is going rough. Okay, so Blake Lively is on her way to a secret beach, and
In Mexico.
In Mexico, yes. And when she gets there, they do this interesting thing where they kind of show, when she looks up her phone, a little pop-up on the screen will come up and you'll see what she's seeing on the phone.
Kind of smart.
Yeah, it worked pretty well, I think. And she had some conversations with people, and she's there with someone, but that person is like hungover and just partying, I guess. So she's not there, and she's realizing she's going to be there alone. And then she has a call with her little sister, and her sister's jealous that she's at this beach, which is Mom's beach, because, I don't know, her mom's connected to the beach somehow. Did they ever talk about that?
Sort of.
All right.
The backstory really doesn't need to be there. I mean, movies have to have a backstory, I guess.
Yeah. And, well, I think that they did also want to mention, and this is how they did it, was in the phone call, that she was a med school dropout, because there are moments where she just knows how to take care of herself when she's being eaten by a shark. And good thing they taught in med school how to pop a seagull's wing back into place.
Yeah.
Anyway, her dad is very disappointed that she dropped out of med school and that she's just kind of in Mexico doing nothing. And I think that's basically the backstory. Then the rest of it is her, Blake Lively versus nature, trying to survive against sharks and jellyfish and super fire coral or something. And
stinging coral of
it's
some
probably
kind.
real.
I'm sure it is.
I'm sure that there's all sorts of stuff in the ocean. You could probably put anything in the ocean and it would be like, yeah, that's probably in there, because
we don't
what
know
the heck is in the ocean? I think that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a surfing trip. Did we mention that? She's
a
surfer.
She's a surfer.
That's how
and
she
there's
gets
two
out there.
like surfer bros in the water as well.
At first.
Yeah.
And then they leave. There's also a giant dead whale carcass floating in this little bay.
Yes, that is what draws the shark
Presumably.
to the shallows.
Except that it doesn't draw any other sharks.
That's
There's
true.
Just one.
And I've watched all the documentaries about sharks, and I know. I mean, I've seen one with the big whale, and there's like 20 little sharks eating it. And then when the big shark comes, all the little sharks leave first. And all those like naive camera people under the water like, look at all these sharks. And then they all leave and they're like, oh, they're gone. And then the biggest shark they've ever seen in the whole world comes over and they all pee their pants.
Their wetsuits.
Yeah.
That's your underwater documentarian voice there. I like that. Had a little bit of Kermit to it.
So they, so I guess it makes sense because this shark is just huge. Just bigger than real sharks ever get, probably.
And also 100% hungry all the time.
But only for humans, not whale carcasses.
That's true.
Which, I kind of couldn't get that out of my head the whole film. I was just thinking, would the whale pick this surfer? Would the shark pick this surfer over the whale? Because why would it do that? Also, from what I understand, sharks are much less aggressive than they are made out to be in movies, and definitely not as aggressive as this one.
Yeah, obviously, shark movies have to have aggressive sharks, or they would be really boring.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
People who know and love sharks are often offended by these kinds of movies, shark movies. I guess, though, you gotta have some kind of line in there about that, though. I mean, it seems like in Jaws, for example, people are there are some experts brought in, and they're all kind of surprised by this shark's behavior, right? Or like Ghost in the Darkness. Lions don't do this. Lions never did this, right? Like there has to be some kind of concession to the fact that this is not how animals behave, because this movie is not how a shark behaves. Now, if that had been recognized at some point by someone as, whoa, this shark is psycho shark, then that would have been helpful.
It
but
would
as
have
it
helped
is,
somehow.
if we're supposed to believe that this is just normal shark behavior. It's not. The shark will eat every single human who goes into the water at this beach, and he'll stay there for days just to make sure he gets them all.
It's
Actually,
brutal.
he doesn't eat them. He just kills
He
them.
just bites them in half and leaves them.
He kills them, and then they wash up on the beach.
Yeah.
It's a murder shark.
For sure. Yeah, it's rough. Also, another disclaimer I think we should add that I thought of while you were talking is that unfairly every shark movie ever in the whole world will be compared to Jaws. We did it already, and we'll probably do it more. And
because it's the only good shark movie.
It is so good. And now every other shark movie you'll walk out of it and say, not as good as Jaws. And there will never be one where you walk out and don't say that, because how could there be? Anyway.
All right. So what did you like?
I thought that guy at the beginning was funny, that conversation in Spanish that they had.
It's even funnier if you speak Spanish.
Yeah.
Just saying. There's a couple lines that don't get translated. It's funny.
Yeah, there are. And luckily he does. So even though I don't speak Spanish, he did lean over and tell me, and we had a good laugh at him kind of picking on her in Spanish. And then I thought afterwards, this is probably what every guy who speaks Spanish does to me at work every day. Let's see here. I mean, it was a beautiful beach. It was I told Chris in the middle of the film, I was like, dang, I just want to go swim there. So it was very beautiful.
You would die.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was before the shark started eating people.
Oh, that's true. Then we decided we didn't want to go there. It is. Beautiful location. Very handsomely shot film.
Yeah, looked good. Also, I liked, we already mentioned this, how when she would look at her phone, it would pop up on the screen. It was even better, I think, with the timer on her watch later.
Yeah.
That was really effective. She would do this thing where the shark was just kind of circling her while she was on this rock, and she'd been bitten, so she was kind of unable to swim as fast as she normally does, and she was observing the shark go around, and she would time it, and she timed it after a few times, and it was like 30 seconds, and she realized how much time she had to get from point A to point B, and then she'd set the timer, and then the timer showed up on the clock, and then she'd go out there, and she'd step on the fire coral, and you're like, oh no, the timer! And it was a really good suspenseful tool.
It was an effective way to do it, and a very effective way to superimpose the timer on there, so you know exactly how long, because apparently sharks always swim the same speed all the time, even if they know there's something in the water. But anyway, the timer was an effective device, and having it pop up on the screen like that, doing the photographs that way at the beginning of the film kind of set a precedent for that. So that worked.
Yeah. Did you have anything you want to talk about that you liked? I have more, but I just wondered if you had anything.
There's a lot of good tense moments in the film. So if you like thrillers, if you like a lot of tension and suspense in your movie, it had a lot of that.
For sure. Jaws became famous for not showing the monster, and how that kind of made it more scary, that you didn't see it. And they did that for a while at the beginning of this movie. And it worked quite well. And I had wrote down that it was effective, but also they did it the first time you see the shark attack somebody. Well, I guess after her. There's a drunk guy on the beach who she's like, help me, and she's yelling from the side from the rock, and she's like, my phone's in my bag, and
so he steals her bag.
Yeah, he walks over there, picks up the bag, and he starts to walk away, and then he realizes that there's a surfboard.
It's her surfboard in the
he's
water.
like,
I guess
I want to steal that too.
Yeah.
So, but isn't it bit in half too?
Not at that point. I think it's still whole at that point. It gets bit in half when he gets bit in half.
Oh yeah. Okay, so he goes over there and grabs it, and then tries to swim back. And honestly, I just thought he was going to drown himself because he was really wasted. But then he got eaten by the shark. But they didn't show it. They just showed Blake Lively's terrified reaction. And I thought that was really good.
That was effective.
Use of... That's the movie The Shining does that a lot. And it's like the king of that, where I don't think there's a single jump scare in that entire movie, The Shining.
Just a lot of reaction shots
Yeah,
that fill
and
you with dread.
oh my gosh, it makes you like more scared to see like what it is that they're looking at, and the longer they leave it there, the more you're just really worried about seeing what they're seeing, and they did that, and it worked, and I loved seeing that. So,
I'd much rather watch that than watch a guy literally get bitten in half, especially since
they did show.
They do show the severed body
at
on the
some point.
beach. That's, yeah.
I think that is effectively everything I liked about this movie.
I liked Steven Seagal.
Steven Seagal.
We talked about that already.
Great performance.
Excellent name. So what did you not like?
Well, there's a couple things that I did like that I also didn't like. So when the phone would pop up on the screen, there was one point that was just too much, and it was when they were trying to do like these beautiful shots of the beach and her like walking around, and then they had the FaceTime thing come up, and then they would also put up what the other people were seeing of her face, and so there was like 3 different things to be trying to watch. That didn't work for me. I didn't know what I was supposed to be looking at, and I just think they needed to remove her face. We were already seeing her. I don't know. It doesn't. It's just
It
really
didn't bother me.
That's a really nitpicky thing. But that was just because I had like wrote down that I liked that they were using that, and then that started happening, and I just thought, reminded me of that old Hulk movie that just had 100 screens going at
Ang Lee's
once.
Hulk.
Yeah. So there was that. Do you have one you want to mention before I keep going?
You know what? I thought of another thing that I liked about the film. Blake Lively's performance is great.
Oh yeah, I had that written down too.
She does good. I mean, super good. Everything she did, she was very believable. You know, med student, surfer, getting eaten by a shark. She played that heck out of that role.
She was a real likable character, and she really made you think that she was suffering.
Yeah, I believed that. Especially when she's stitching her leg with her earrings. Okay, if you're squeamish, that's like the grossest thing I may ever have seen in a film.
It was
like
real bad.
It looked
real bad.
Totally real. Oh my gosh. You take Tom Hanks trying to take his tooth out with an ice skate is like rated G compared to this. It's brutal.
For sure.
So if you don't like blood and guts, that's not going to be your thing. Or like medical anything, if you don't want to see all that. Because there's a lot of blood and a humongous gash and stitching and screaming. It's very intense.
That was something else I wanted to mention too, that for some reason I didn't write down in here, but I do remember us kind of talking about it a little bit. And it was that the earrings that she used to stitch herself up, for some reason, you recognized them at the beginning of the movie.
Yep. And her necklace, all of her accessories were somehow highlighted really well at the beginning. I don't know how they did that, but both of us noticed those, and those become integral to the rest of the film. So.
Yeah, so it was just
nice
interesting.
Setup.
Yeah, it was interesting that there was an object that was somehow highlighted, like you said, and you just kind of knew in your subconscious that they were important for some reason. I don't know why we knew that, but
they are interesting earrings. I mean, I've never seen earrings like that before.
Yeah, they were kind of weird looking. So, well done. I'm not going to say it. I don't know how to say his name.
My biggest dislike is just this really stretches credibility. It's really asking you to suspend your disbelief a lot. That there is this super killer shark out there that just will not rest until he eats this one girl. I mean, he's got this giant whale to eat, but he keeps going after her and anybody else who gets in the water. There are only 4 characters who get in the water in this movie. They all get eaten or bitten by this shark. He doesn't leave anybody alone. Once he gets to this little bay, he's just a killing machine, and he never gives up. And she endures everything imaginable. I mean, every possible, and they got to keep the movie interesting, and they got to move from tension to tension, right? And so you got to get to the rock now. You got to get to the buoy, but there's jellyfish, and there's a shark, and there's a seagull with a dislocated wing, and there are people getting in the water that she's trying to warn, and she has to try and save one of them. Anyway, they kept it interesting for sure, but nobody survives what she survived in this movie. By the end, this is like the Die Hard of shark movies. She looks like John McClane at the end of the movie, just totally trashed. Absolutely bloodied to a pulp.
That sounded like really high praise for this movie.
It's high praise for her character.
Yeah, that's true.
She even has
she
a
did well.
similar...
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, she did good.
She did good. I was going to say, don't remember. Doesn't matter. Let's see here. What else did I have on here? Oh, yeah. They mentioned, that seagull is focused on a lot. And
it's the Wilson, going back to Castaway.
Oh, yeah.
That seagull is the Wilson of this movie.
But I kind of thought there would be, some sort of payoff with that seagull. When Wilson leaves Tom Hanks, it is just...
It's the most heart-wrenching moment of the film.
Yeah. It is so sad. Just insane. And very effective. And in this movie, I thought, this seagull, somehow this seagull's going to be important. It wasn't. There was no payoff.
She just talks to it and then sets it on a piece of surfboard and pushes it away to freedom. We really wanted the shark to come out and just eat that seagull as soon as she pushed it away.
That would have been a great payoff. Just fantastic.
You can't kill animals in movies.
You're right. But
you can. Not in PG-13 movies.
I also wanted to mention that the whole deal with her not getting eaten by the whole deal with her trying to escape, and she gets on top of the whale. And the shark is so uninterested in the whale that he just starts pushing her out deeper into the water because he just wants to get her to a point where she can't escape. And he doesn't eat it. And at one point he kind of tries to knock her off of it. He never is
a smart shark.
So not interested in that thing. And it just was, I don't know, really.
He also eats half of a buoy trying to get to her.
Yeah, he does.
He is a relentless, very determined shark.
For sure. And I guess they did have at one point, there was a spear fisherman's little spear from their spear guns. I just said
Stuck
spear
in its
1,000 times in one sentence.
That's right. It's hooked through the mouth.
So I guess
maybe it's supposed to be
real mad about that.
Revenge shark.
And now he has a vendetta
on every
He's
human.
actually the hero of this story.
It's a sad story. It's a tragedy.
Okay. It didn't work. The spear didn't work. It was there and I recognized it, but I didn't love it. The CGI in this movie was pretty bad. I thought most of the time it was good, but toward the end... I think it was only good when it was underwater.
Yeah. When it's
when the dolphin
eating
jumps.
the buoy and stuff, it was definitely a CG shark. But it looked, it looked worse than the shark in 47 Meters Down, which was made for a third of the budget of this movie.
I think they also don't show the sharks as much in 47 Meters Down.
Well, that was smart.
Yeah, it was. And I think that movie's way better than this movie. But that movie has...
I think they're about the same.
But the tomato meters are about swapped on what I think they should be for these films. I don't think we've mentioned what the tomato meter score is for The Shallows yet.
Oh, we did. 79.
You're right. You said that. Okay, more things I don't like. At the beginning, there was this montage of her surfing with just the dumbest music. And it was supposed to be so cool, and it was like
Not
so
cool.
much slow-mo, and I mean, the stuff they were doing was cool, but I couldn't get past the fact that the song choice was just unbearable. Anyway, I guess,
Agreed. The songs did not do the movie any favors.
yeah,
But then I hate music with words, so what do I know?
that's true. You should probably know that we'll probably talk about composers and music in movies a lot because Chris knows more than anyone in the world about movie music.
That is not true, but I love film music as much as I love film. You can tell, I mean, we've referenced a lot of other movies while we've gone through this. We love movies, and I love movie music just as much as I love movies.
And it has definitely kind of infected me as well with the love of film music. And I've come to really realize how important that is in movies because it can really ruin a movie if you don't. Like this scene where she's surfing and they just have the worst song. And also, it can make a scene significantly more beautiful if the music is done right. Or terrifying, which, by the way, I guess the person who did this is someone you know.
Marco Beltrami did the score. He's a big deal. We didn't notice the score. We noticed the songs that we thought were placed poorly, but Marco Beltrami did a good job writing music that was intense, but it blended so well with the film that neither of us really noticed it. It's not a film score I would ever listen to away from the film for enjoyment.
Yeah, and I don't think that all film music has to be like that.
Pretty cool. We probably ought to wrap it up. I mean, people don't want to watch a 20-minute video review.
You're right, especially about this movie.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
one other thing that really bugged me was at the very final scene, the way she escapes is that she attaches herself to the last chain that's keeping the buoy attached to an anchor at the bottom of the ocean. And the chain breaks and she comes plummeting down the ocean and the shark is chasing after her. And she moves out of the way at the last minute. And turns out that the anchor is a bunch of metal shards just welded together.
maybe that's the way anchors
It's not.
are.
I looked up stuff because I didn't want to bring this up and be like, that was so dumb, and then find out that for some reason that's how it was.
People don't put spiky balls at the bottom of the ocean.
I looked up a bunch of things because in my mind I was just like, that seems a little dangerous that that's out there on pretty near to the shore, and I found out a bunch of stuff about anchors that we don't need to talk about, but that does not exist, okay? It's either like a giant cement block or a special kind of anchor that goes into the ground. And none of them are giant spike balls. But whatever. Conveniently, this one was, and yeah, it wasn't just a cement thing for the shark to also eat.
Should we rate it?
Yeah, sure.
What score do you give this movie?
I gave this movie 3 out of 5 Steven Seagulls.
And I gave this movie 2.5 Steven Seagulls out of 5. So between us, that's, if you can do math, 2.75 Steven Seagulls out of 5.
Yeah.
You should see the movie if you love shark movies. If you're all about the shark movies and you got to see them all, then you've already seen this one, and why are you even watching this? I thank you for watching this. You should like it and subscribe to our channel because maybe we'll review another movie you've already seen.
Yeah, well, I think the next one we're going to talk about is going to be another scary one, and because it's Halloween, so I think we're probably going to have one other video come out for October, and I think it'll probably be Happy Death Day, and we'll talk about that next. As far as this goes, I really hope there's a sequel called The Shallows Seagull's Revenge. Starring Steven Seagal, whose wife Nancy, which is Blake Lively's character, is eaten by a giant shark, and then Seagal uses his sweet martial arts skills to punch all the sharks with guns in the face.
I would like to suggest that the seagull is voiced by
Steven
Samberg.
Seagal? Oh, Andy Samberg, yes.
He does birds really well. If you haven't seen Storks, it's better than this movie. You should see that.
I don't think Seagal's acting chops are real great, but obviously this is all written down, and I'm trying to make it sound like it's natural, and it's not working. But the shark that ate him should be called Shark Norris. And they'll have a great martial arts showdown at the end.
Sounds great.
I would like that better than this movie. Anyway, thanks for watching.
Thank you.
We look forward to doing more of these. I hope it was enjoyable in some way. And we'll see you next time.
Ciao. I'm Italian now.
Ciao. You'll have to say bye in a different
language every time.
When we talk about Lord of the Rings, you have to do it in Elven.
Oh, I know that. I know it. All right. So why do you